The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we're going to be talking about the emerald ash borer, which is affecting us all in Lincoln, Nebraska. Please, we've got the experts with us. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Jerry Renault. All of us are looking for ways to reduce the stress and to be able to relax more in life. And one of the interesting ways that people have discovered and how to do that is through meditation. Today, we want to talk about meditation, and we want to give you a chance to take you through a little bit of a meditative practice. We hope you'll stay tuned.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Kim Hachia. I think you're going to want to listen to this segment today. My guest is Mary Pfeiffer. She's a mother, a grandmother, a psychologist, an activist, and an author. And we're going to be talking about her book, Women Rowing North. And I think you're really going to want to hear what she has to say.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we have a fascinating story about the history of Tabitha, which dates back to 1886 and is still going today. And now they have their Meals on Wheels program, and we'll explore that. It's a fascinating story. Please stay tuned.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hi, welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Lita Powell Drake, and I'm sure you're aware of the emerald ash borer. It's coming to Lincoln, it's here in Lincoln, and we have two experts to be able to explain what's going on in Lincoln, Nebraska with the emerald ash borer. Sarah Browning is with us today. We're so happy to have her. She's with the University of Nebraska Extension Office. And Adam Klingenberg, the City of Lincoln, the forestry guy. I'm so glad that you people are here to help us understand this. Now, let's start with you, Sarah. Give us a little background. What is the emerald ash borer? What does it do?
Emerald ash borer is a little beetle.
Yeah.
that
What's a
is-
beetle?
A beetle is a certain group of insects that have a hard shell over their back, but then they do have wings, so they can fly. The adults can fly from place to place. So this insect came into North America from Asia, from the China area specifically. Came into Detroit, Michigan.
Well, no, I thought it came in on a boat or something, or cargo or something. It got in the cargo in the ship.
Yeah. So since the immature stage of this insect is a borer and it lives in wood, what they think happened is that it was in the wood in packing pallets that came probably on a cargo ship through the Great Lakes, through Lake Superior into Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, where it was first found here in North America in 2002. So it's been in the U.S. now for about 17 years, and it's gradually been spreading across the eastern part of the U.S. and up and down the eastern seaboard, and now into Nebraska and
It
Iowa.
has arrived now in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes.
And let's show that we've got a picture of how it has migrated across the country.
Right. It's in about 35 states now, and also up into Canada. Several provinces in Canada have confirmed infestations as well. But you can see all of the different states where there have been confirmations now. Even west of us in Colorado, they have it in Colorado as well.
Is it going to continue to move even further west?
Yes, the expectation is that it probably will continue to move west, but the native distribution of ash trees in North America kind of stops around where you see on the map where the infestations have stopped. So although we know ash are planted as an urban tree all the way across the U.S., the native distribution of ash is about where you see it in in the infested states right now.
Well, when did it first arrive in Nebraska? I mean, we didn't know about it. Has it been here a little bit of time?
The first confirmation in Nebraska was in 2016, so 3 years ago. It was found in two sites in Omaha and then also in Greenwood, Nebraska. Then we had a couple of years where we didn't find it at all, and then there was another confirmation here in Lincoln last summer.
Is it going to kill all the trees, all the ash trees? in
All of
Lincoln?
the trees that are in the ash genus, which is the Fraxinus genus, will be affected. So white ash, autumn purple ash is a very popular cultivar that a lot of people have planted.
Now that's a healthy.
That's a healthy ash tree. Green ash, Marshall seedless ash is a popular cultivar there. Patmore ash, all of the true ash trees in the genus Fraxinus will be affected.
Oh, breaking my heart.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, does the emerald ash borer look like some other bugs? I mean, you know, when you look at all those little tiny green bugs and it's so small.
Right.
Is it related to any other bug, or
Well,
other bugs look like it?
Definitely. You know, it's called emerald ash borer because it's green.
Oh,
And you can
yeah,
see the picture
right.
in the background there. It is actually a very pretty little beetle. It's a kind of a bright, metallic, iridescent green. It's very small, though. The adult beetle is about a ½ an inch long, so it's pretty small. But when we talk about green insects, people often confuse it with other things, like even like a katydid or a green grasshopper or other beetles that happen to be green. Or in this case,
a stink bug.
A stink bug.
I like that one. I mean,
Yep.
does it smell bad?
Yes,
Oh.
if you crush them, stink bugs smell bad. That's where
Oh.
they get that name from. But even something like this, people will often confuse emerald ash borer with other green insects that we have in Nebraska.
And there's so many of them.
There's quite a
I
few,
certainly understand.
yes.
Well, let me tell you my little story, okay? When I first moved into my house, there was this big tree out in the yard, and I mean, I didn't know one tree from another. and so I noticed that the first year that it was a big tree, the leaves were dying on one side, and I thought, what's causing that? So I got the hose out and put a whole bunch of water on it.
Okay.
Figured that'll do it. Well, that didn't do it. And the next year it got a little worse, and I thought, what's the matter? And the third year it was getting very bad, and I thought, what's the matter? So I called the tree guys, and the tree guys came out and they said, well, this tree is going to have to come down. And it was very expensive. And so they went out there and they cut the whole thing down. And I said, what kind of a tree is that? And they said, that's an ash tree. And I said, I didn't know my ash from a hole in the ground, obviously. But the interesting thing after that is, now all these years have gone by. I replaced no tree in that same spot. I was out mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden my feet sunk into, and the lawnmower sunk into the ground, because now it's my understanding that the roots of that tree are now decaying, and that's making my lawn fall in. Is that right?
Yeah, that can happen as the hard woody substance of the roots decays and breaks down. It could, the soil could sink there a little bit.
Now I know my ash from a hole in the ground. Okay, kiddo, now let's talk about you, because you're with the city and so forth. Now, you were with the team that first discovered the ash borer in Lincoln. Would you tell us about that?
Yep, we were doing a removal on an ash tree that the people were not going to adopt an ash, they were not going to treat it. So they elected to have the tree removed. So we were just doing the routine removal, and it was the last lead we came to that we found some of these markings on the lead itself. And as we kept going, we started looking a little bit deeper into it, and we ended up finding the S-shaped galleries. And at that point, no larvae or anything yet. And we took it back to the shop, called Department of Ag, and had them come out and take a peek at it, and they found live larvae in it. So.
All right, now, I made an assumption that the bug made the hole in that, but I'm wrong.
The holes you just showed there are the ones from when they emerge into the adult phase, when they turn that pretty green.
So that's coming from
inside
the
out.
inside out, not outside in.
Yep.
Ah, well, there's so little, I mean, it's such a small bug, how can it actually penetrate the bark of a tree? That's thick stuff.
When the female lays an egg, and then the little larvae hatch, and then they burrow in through the bark. And this, on this one, it came in right here, and then the little larvae burrowed into here, and then started feeding and getting bigger. And you can see through the trails how it got larger.
Well, why did they make this? Well, it's really quite a pretty design.
It is neat. It is. It's very devastating, but it is pretty neat.
So they don't.
Homeowners are not.
That's called the Cambium.
Cambium layer, yep.
Cambium. And what is that?
That's I always describe for homeowners, that's the real live part of the tree. That's the wet part right underneath of the bark, and that is the part that the larvae are feeding on, and that's what does the damage, because that's what is allowing the moisture water up the tree with other nutrients.
Oh, dear.
And it is cutting that circulation off to the top. So a homeowner is not going to see this. A homeowner is going to see, to your point with your ash tree, a section dying back and some dieback at the top. That's when they have a red flag. So
But that was so long ago. Do you think the ash borer was here then?
I don't think it was then. I think yours had something else, but that's similar to what
Not enough
homeowners are going to
water.
see.
I kept thinking about that. Okay, now you've got something called the ash tree. It's the ash tree program. Adopt an ash tree. Would you explain that?
So the City of Lincoln has an Adopt an Ash. What we do with that is it's an agreement with the City of Lincoln and then residents who have a ash tree on the right-of-way in the city that's adjacent to their property. And they can elect to enroll in this program. It's a no-cost permit, and that allows us to monitor it through our computer system, so know which trees are adopted. And they're willing to take on the cost of the trunk injection chemical treatment to preserve the benefits of the ash trees. With this program, we have a couple requirements. We ask that the trees are healthy, trees are not underneath power lines.
But if the trees are going to die anyway, why should we even bother to try to preserve them?
You know, the benefits we get from ash trees, any type of a tree, is substantial. So anything we can do that would help ensure our urban forest would be a very large benefit, from the carbon sequestration that they do, the storm runoff that they provide, the shade, the benefits for homeowners on the cost. And I really believe that treating the trees, adopting an ash and treating them to save those benefits that we get from by preserving the ash is well worth it.
How long do you think they'll survive then? I mean, you take care of them, but they're not going to go on forever.
Yep. So on the Adopt an Ash, our program's 2 years. They need to get chemically treated with that trunk injection method with imamectin benzoate. That'll last for 2 years.
Say that again a little more slowly. Imamectin.
Imamectin benzoate.
Yeah.
And so from there, that's 2 years. That's the trunk injection. The bug will run a course over like 15 years, and that's when you get the majority of your death, and you're dying from the ash tree death. But when you preserve them with the chemical, you can get long term. The bug is never going to leave the community. It's here to stay. Just the population won't be through the roof. It'll be a little lower.
So how many ash trees do we have in Lincoln?
So these are estimate numbers. City of Lincoln has roughly 12 to 14,000 public trees, and we estimate anywhere between 40 to 50,000 private trees. That's the backyard, front yards of them, and those are estimates. So it's substantial.
And all of these trees are going to die. I'm just
all of them will be affected.
But
if we do this Adopt an Ash, we can save them. I encourage residents to use the same standards we have for our Adopt an Ash for the city trees, being the private or the public trees. Use this same set guidelines for your private trees to see if they're worth injecting and preserving them.
We've got a couple of minutes left. What do you want our public to know about the ash tree? Anything more?
Something that I think is extremely important, and I'm sure you'll agree with, if the City of Lincoln doesn't do anything with their trees and we just sit back, you're going to lose them for sure. There's no question about that. We know the bug was found in the middle of Lincoln, 40th and F area. It is all around us. It's there now. And the city forestry crews, we've been looking for it for years now, and we finally found this. Homeowners aren't going to see that. They're going to, if they see this, the tree's already gone. So we need to act now. That is the most important thing.
Okay, let's put that up on the screen again then, where people can reach them in case they were listening, but they're not really writing it down. Really, the community forestry, there's the web, trees.lincoln.ne.gov, or write this down on the telephone 402 area code 441-7847, and we're calling that Adopt an Ash Tree program.
Yep. They have questions, call there, check the website, but we've got to do something. So,
Lita, so one thing I would add, just as a closing remark, is that we know we're going to lose a lot of ash trees. And so as people replant, if they put new trees in their landscape, we really want to focus on diversity. We want people to choose a variety of trees and not plant back with all the same tree. We don't want everybody to come back with maples or lindens. We want a good variety. That just gives us a lot of diversity in our city's tree canopy. So if some other disease or insect comes along, starts affecting trees, we're not going to lose such a high percentage of trees. It'll be diluted, the effects of whatever that insect or disease might be.
Okay, for the tree that has been had to be taken down, would you plant something right there or someplace else? If you're going to plant a different tree.
Well, if you're going to plant a different tree, the emerald ash borer won't affect that new tree, because you're not going to go back with an ash. So really, the only limitation is where you can physically get a new tree in the ground, because there'll be an old trunk there, and there'll be some roots, and so you'll have to work around that. But there's no reason why you can't plant a tree very close to where the old ash tree was.
This has been very informative. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much for being here. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn more about the emerald ash borer in Lincoln, Nebraska.
I'm Lynn Johnson, Director of Lincoln Parks and Recreation. Now that emerald ash borer has been identified in Lincoln, and if you love your ash street tree, you may wish to consider having it treated. Lincoln Parks and Recreation launched its new Adopt an Ash program as of May 1st. Once an ash is infested with the beetle, it dies and becomes brittle, making it unsafe. If you love your ash street tree, Lincoln Parks and Recreation invites you to help protect our community's urban forest and all of its benefits.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. Today we want to talk about, I think, an interesting subject, and that is meditation. It's probably something that you have heard a lot about. You've probably seen people doing it. For some, it has sort of an interesting negative connotation and an interesting image, and for others, it's a powerful tool for relieving stress and for relaxation and just an opportunity to enjoy life a little bit more. We want to investigate and talk about meditation today, and we want to give you a chance to try it. If you've never done this, we're going to do this a little bit later in the program, so we hope you'll stick around for that. We have a fabulous guest. It is Mike Madison from the Zen Center here in Lincoln. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jerry. Thank you for inviting me.
Before we get too involved in talking about meditation, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get involved, because you are somebody who takes people through meditation opportunities and in groups, and I think by one-on-one as well. But tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in meditation?
You know, my wife has been a person who's meditated for a very long time, longer than I have. And she had a book called A Gradual Awakening by Stephen Levine that I read some 20 years ago, probably more than that. And it actually was a form of Zen meditation, although we didn't really talk so much about that. That got me interested, and I occasionally did it on my own and rarely had the opportunity to do it with a group. So about 8 years ago, my daughter was in high school. I had a very busy job. I was feeling a lot of stress, and I thought, I need something. I looked online and found the Lincoln Zen Center. At the time it was called the Lotus Zen Temple. And I thought, all right, I'm going to go check this out. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I got up the courage to actually go check it out. And I found that, that sitting and meditating really worked for me. It was very, very helpful and very useful. So I became more involved. I became a member of the board of directors for the Zen Center. And a couple of years later began to lead meditations as a doan. And then with a little more instruction, I began to introduce newcomers to meditation. So I don't consider myself to be an expert, but I do have a bit of experience that I love to share with people.
Yeah, very nice. So it's an interesting world that we live in with all kinds of social media, and people have apps on their phone, and you can purchase all kinds of equipment. I know there is one that was pretty popular out there that you put the headphones on, and the whole goal is to try to relax enough so you hear birds chirping in the background. I don't know if you've seen this one. I've actually tried this one. It's pretty interesting. So there are all kinds of things out there. It's becoming, a little more popular. What is it about meditation? What is it about these things, do you think, that has made it become so popular and that it works?
That's a great question, Jerry. The popularity has increased a lot in recent times of probably a lot of different kinds of meditation and yoga, which yoga can be a meditative practice as well. I think a lot of it has to do with, it's sort of an evolution. There's been studies into the benefits of meditation. Kabat-Zinn has done studies at Harvard University that, I believe it's Harvard, that have demonstrated the physiological benefits of meditation. Lowered blood pressure, the benefits of less stress. I think people find that in our hurry-up world where the cell phone is there all the time, demands our attention. Some days I probably go rarely more than an hour without checking the cell phone for something or other.
I wish I could go an hour without checking my cell phone. It's an adrenaline rush. To have something happen on your phone. That's sort of a sidelight. Yeah. That's kind of a weird.
It's sort of like fishing.
Yes, just exactly.
We're wanting to see what's there.
Right.
And so with these distractions and the pace of life today, there's so many sources of information. 24-hour cable or satellite is available to us, the phone, the internet. It's all there. We can be tuned in all the time. And it does tend to become stressful. I think that for many people, we feel a stress from being engaged all the time. So taking some time to just simply relax and be with ourselves, for many people is very attractive. It's a way to become, whether it's a spiritual practice or not, I think it helps us in physical and mental ways to be more relaxed, to have stress relief.
That brings up a real interesting point, because I think a lot of people have sort of some negatives about it and think, well, I can't do that for any number of reasons. And one of them is a colleague of ours here on the show who said, look, I can't meditate because I can't sit and be quiet that long. My mind is just moving all of the time. How do you answer that?
It's a great question. First, I would say that your colleague is in a fairly large group of company. For many people, I think most of us, there are times when our mind kind of races. We go from one thing to another, and it's hard to stay focused. There's a quote that was kind of made famous by Stephen Covey, that when asking a lumberjack if he had 5 minutes to cut down a tree, what would he do? And he said, I'd spend 3 minutes sharpening my axe or sharpening my saw. And I think that's sort of the answer to this, is that it's, in a way, it's kind of an addiction. We become addicted to the thoughts and to just going through at this kind of frenetic pace. So it can be difficult to slow down. On the other hand, it's a bit like in the Nike commercial. You just do it.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, it won't happen.
What about the time element? Because I know that we hear of people who meditate for long periods of time, but it doesn't really have to be that way. I've heard that if you can just even do 5 minutes a day, or 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes somewhere else along the line, that it can just make a big difference.
I think that's true. In fact, I often will meditate for 5 or 10 minutes at a time because I don't think I can make the time for a longer time at it. I've also been to a session or a retreat where we sit for hours a day, not non-stop with breaks in between, but throughout the day in 25 to 35 minute sessions, sit for hours. So, if I can do it, I think most people can do it. But a few minutes at a time, even stopping just briefly to take a deep breath. We oftentimes throughout our day breathe shallow. We get kind of wrapped up in what we're doing, and we forget to breathe. And it's very healthy to breathe in a relaxed manner. So just taking a few minutes to breathe slowly, naturally, and let whatever thoughts come to us is, I think, very beneficial.
What about the position? Because that is something, again, that, and we've seen a few pictures today where people are having their hands over their heads, and they are sitting in a position that, in my advanced years, I'm not sure I can get to anymore. I'm not sure I could have gotten to them when I was younger, but is there some specifics like that, or can anybody just find a comfortable position to be able to do that?
Well, I want to answer the question in two parts.
Okay.
The first is, like many things, with practice we get better. We don't usually get better at something by not doing it. And so there's a fellow who came to our introduction to meditation and tried sitting cross-legged and found it to be very uncomfortable. He came back another couple of times, and then I didn't see him for, I think, a couple of months. And he came in and he sat cross-legged beautifully.
Oh, so he'd practiced.
He practiced and he
okay.
got better at it. So it is something that we can, do things that we don't think we can if we put a little effort into it.
Okay, very good.
On the other hand, it's not necessary to sit in there are certain things that are important. So we want to sit without leaning back into a chair.
Okay.
It's better if we can sit in a comfortable, balanced posture.
Okay, let's try a little bit of it because before we run out of time, so
Sure.
we told people we were going to give them that opportunity. Let's try it for a couple of minutes. If I were coming to you, take me through just a very short little session.
Sure. Okay. Well,
So I need to lean forward.
Move forward on your chair,
Okay.
and if you need to get to where you're comfortable and you feel balanced, go ahead and move your feet around a little bit.
Okay.
So that I usually kind of let my feet go back so that my knees are bent a
Okay.
little more. Okay?
Okay.
Now take your hands and put them in this position. That's not necessary. Put these fingers, left fingers on top of the right, and touch your thumbs together.
Okay.
And just let that rest on your lap. Okay?
Okay.
That's not necessary, but that's the way we do it, so I'll show
Okay.
you that. Now, move around a little bit and find a balance point. Okay? Find where okay, I'm balanced. It doesn't take a lot of muscle effort to sit in this position.
Okay.
Okay? And now you'll basically look straight forward across the room. We can, usually we'll keep our mouth closed and breathe through our nose. And let your eyes look down at a place maybe 6 or 8 feet in front of you. Okay? And in Zen we keep our eyes open, but it's okay if it's more comfortable to close your eyes. And then what happens is we get quiet and we bring our attention to our breath and we bring our attention to any tension that's in our body. So we'll find a lot of times when we sit that there are muscles that have tensed up. And we want to find a way to let those relax. So we have to kind of go through from the top, from our shoulders on down to our ankles and to the ends of our toes, and just see, is there any tension there? We want to let that go. We want to be very relaxed. We want to be gentle with ourselves. And just feel the breath coming in and coming out. So as the breath comes in and out, thoughts will also generally pop up. They'll enter our mind, and we'll just let those thoughts come and let those thoughts go. And gently bring our attention back to our breath. Very good.
That's nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Zen Center offers some opportunities to do this. You take people through this. I think we have a website that we can show the folks if anybody is interested in being able to, we have it, the link, in zencenter.org.
Mm-hmm.
There are some fun, at least one video, which is really interesting to watch. There's also some reading material if people want to learn a little bit more about it before they would even try something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, most people do before they come to the Zen Center. It's Mondays at 5:30 at 13th and High Street is where the Zen Center is located. There are many other organizations that provide meditation training and services throughout Lincoln as well.
If you just in a quick 30 seconds, if somebody says to you, "Why should I try this?" What would be the benefits?
I can tell you what the benefits are, and I will never tell anybody they should do it.
Sure.
That is entirely their decision to make. But it is a way to relax and to relieve stress and to become more comfortable, a little kinder, a little gentler to ourselves and others.
Very good. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Mike Madison from the Lincoln Zen Center.
Thank you, Jerry.
And thank all of you for joining us today here on Live and Learn. And always remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Did you know that there is a silent crisis from border to border in Nebraska, where elderly Nebraskans may fear retribution, lack of care, or embarrassment? June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an opportunity to consider financial exploitation, neglect, and physical abuse of vulnerable or senior adults living in silent fear.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia. I'm really excited today to welcome my guest, Mary Pfeiffer. Mary's a mother, a grandmother, a psychologist, an activist, and an author, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about her recent book, Women Rowing North, and other books that she's written that you might know about, Reviving Ophelia, Another Country, The Middle of Everywhere, The Green Book, and now this, Women Rowing North. Mary, thank you and welcome to my show.
Thanks, Kim. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm so excited about that. You know, I had the pleasure of reading Women Rowing North kind of in pre-publication, and I found it to be really hit topics that are of interest to people, women my age. You have always seemed to have your finger on sort of the zeitgeist of what's happening at that exact moment. Tell me about why you wrote this book. You know, why did you feel compelled to put this book together?
Well, you know, I always write about what I want to learn and what I'm deeply curious about. To stay with the book for 2 years, you really need to have passion and energy for the topic. And so I started this book at a point I was getting older, my friends were getting older, and I really felt we don't know how to do this life stage. There's almost no education for people 65 facing 30 more years of life. And the cultural scripts are miserable. In fact, one way I knew that is when I'd say to people, I'm writing a book about older women, they'd almost invariably go, I'm not old, or you're not old. And what they were saying is, I refuse to identify with this culture's description of what old women are like. So I was really curious about the idea that we could have a totally different way of thinking about old age that actually corresponded to my reality, which was when I'd run into my friends, a lot of them would say, you know, this is happier than I've ever been, and I'm enjoying life more. And it wasn't just my fortunate friends that were saying that. It was friends who were ill, it was friends that were struggling with disabilities. They were saying the same thing. So I just thought there's something to explore here that I really want to learn.
And what did you discover?
Well, one of the things I discovered is, first of all, there is research that shows we're the happiest demographic group. And I realized it's because of happiness is a choice and it's a set of skills. And the choice is to be happy, to wake up in the morning and be grateful for the sun rising. Mm-hmm. And to set our intention to have a good day and to make some decisions about where we're going to focus our attention. So for example, if we wake up in the morning and say, thank you, sun, for rising, and then say, today as I move around the world, I'm going to look for opportunities to laugh, or opportunities to be loving, or I'm going to look for evidence of love in the universe, we're going to have a better day than if we wake up without setting our attention grumpy and stay grumpy all day. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, by time, I'm 71 now, by the time a woman is 71, she's had 7 decades to acquire life skills. And we have, most of us, not all of us, not everyone grows as they grow older. Some people stagnate and become a small, diminished version of themselves. But many of us, with this very catalytic life stage, grow into bigger people, and we have the skills that allow us to be happy no matter what, to find ways to enjoy our lives, no matter what the situation. One example I remember is walking out of a friend's funeral. I heard the call of a cardinal, and I just loved the way the rain smelled and tasted as it was on my face. And we learn those kind of skills by the time we're our age.
One of the through lines in many of your books, which I admit I have read, maybe admit's the wrong word.
That is the wrong word to an author.
I know, I disclose that I have read, is the concept of resilience. And you talked about that skill. Is resilience innate or is it learned? Or it might be both. And then how do we develop that skill? Because I think that's an important skill for anybody.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's innate or learned. I don't know if there's much research on that. I do know that some people seem to have a great deal more capacity. There's people who are disabled by a hangnail, and there's people who are run over by a Mack truck and get up and keep smiling. You know, there's just an enormous range. And the other thing is, speaking for myself, I bet you would say the same things. There's times when I'm extremely resilient and just think, whoa, I have grit. You know, I can make it through about anything. And then there's times when I'm just fall apart over nothing.
Right.
So it's both a sort of a characteristic, but it's also depends on the moment, the day, the circumstance, how resilient we are. The thing I would say about resilience is you cultivate that in large part through coping with adversity. You don't grow unless you're stressed. You don't learn empathy unless you've felt pain. And so one of the things that happens by the time you're 70 is you've gone through a lot of rough stuff. Everybody our age has gone through a lot of rough stuff. And as you go through it, and especially as you watch how other people go through rough stuff, if you've got your eyes open, you start to make some observations about who does well and who doesn't, and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So that by the time you're going through the rough stuff we all go through at this age, you've got a vast repertoire of skills and stories and role models and experience that help you sort of know how to make the right. Sometimes I run into people, I go to an exercise class at Health Club for Older Women. And one thing I notice in the dressing room is there's women in there who are always positive. You know, they're even if the weather's bad, they're making a joke about something. Or then there's women who are always negative. And it's the ones who are always positive who are obviously a lot happier. And they have a lot more friends and more people are engaging with them. And that's just a matter of deciding this is where I'm going to focus my attitude today, on being a positive, warm person.
Right. We talked earlier about, you use the word in this book, you use the word bliss and finding bliss. And I'm interested in your definition of bliss and how that's different from, say, happiness or contentment or satisfaction.
Sure. Well, what I say is the rewards of this life stage are authenticity, self-acceptance, the ability to take the long view of life and family, and the great rewards of a deep feeling for, in my case, 7 generations of family now. But bliss is the last chapter. And to me, bliss is an epiphany. It means something very different than happiness. A lot of people are happy, but they don't experience bliss. I would say for the most part, every decade of my life has had problems and troubles. But for the most part, I would say all my life I've been happy and I've been lucky. But bliss has come to me in later years. And by bliss, I mean I can just be absolutely gobsmacked by something in my garden and just stand there and just feel this great rush of love for a flower or a plant. Or Jim and I, my husband and I, we sit on our porch a lot of nights and just watch birds. And every now and then we'll hear a meadowlark or a bluebird or something, and its trill will just go right into my heart. And I'll just feel this deep experience of peace. Now, I think what's going on there primarily, Kim, is that when I was young, I probably was capable of moments like that. I didn't slow down for them. I just didn't have time to slow down for them. But as you get older, you have more time to go slow. The other thing is there's an amazing calculus to old age, and as more is lost, what remains becomes more deeply beautiful. And so I think the bliss comes from this sort of pendulum between sorrow and the need to balance that sorrow with these extraordinary, wondrous experiences. You know, Abe Maslow, when he was old, said, I can cry at the beauty of a rose. Well, he was having a bliss experience when he looked at a rose. So, and I talk to my friends, and many people say, I'm having more of those experiences than I ever had before.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time just outside looking at vultures and weird things like that, and I find that really interesting and I guess I'm having my bliss moments then.
Yeah.
So. We talked earlier about your title of your book, Women Rowing North, and I'm interested in how you chose that title.
Well, I chose the word rowing because I wanted to suggest we can be happy in this life stage, but only if we work hard. It's a tough life stage. So the business of using all of our skills like gratitude and reasonable expectations and so on, we need to stay focused on those things. We need to set our intentions. We need to be sure that we're paying attention to the right things in our environments. And of course, we need to do all the other things older people need to do to be happy, like exercise and eat right and so on. So I wanted to emphasize the arduous nature of this life stage, even as I'm saying it can be the happiest life stage we experience. Then the word north to me has always meant ice and winter. And many indigenous people see north as where the great spirits live and where people go when they die. So journeying north to me means journeying toward winter. And you know the very trite analogy of life being compared to a season? We're in the winter now. And another way to say winter is to say we're going north.
I see. I see.
So that's where it comes from for me, Kim.
Yeah.
Do you like the title?
I love the title.
Oh, thank you.
And the word rowing, you know, it does signify. I mean, I've used the rowing machine. That is hard work.
It's not women gliding north. We're not gliding.
Or skating or dancing or whatever. It does indicate that there's hard work, but there's also there's a destination that's meaningful and helpful. I know that you have another book coming out this summer that you wrote with your daughter.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Reviving Ophelia is celebrating its 25th year, and my daughter Sarah Gillam and I rewrote, updated, did new work on interviews and focus groups and read all the current literature. I talked to a lot of therapists, she talked to teachers, and we have a brand new version coming out in June. So she and I'll be speaking in the area, and then that book will be available.
That's exciting. Maybe you'll come back and we can talk about that book again.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That'd be fun.
I'm really excited about that. Mary, thank you so much for taking some time and coming in and chatting about this book. I think there's a lot in this book for people of many generations and many genders, actually. I don't think it's just really limited to women, but I know that it's really resonating. I've been to a couple of your talks, and it's standing room only at big venues, and congratulations on really, hitting it out of the ballpark on this one, because I think it really resonates with a lot of people.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed being on the show, and what I have to say about Women Rowing North, it's had very good success. So I'm grateful.
Yeah.
It's just lovely to have a success at 71.
Thank you, thank you. Mary's a perfect example of that. It's never too late to live and learn.
Vulnerable and senior adults might be living in silent fear of elder abuse and financial exploitation. We can do something about it. The Nebraska DHHS recommends that communities maintain and improve resources such as public transportation and senior centers to prevent social isolation. Engage professionals in various disciplines to find solutions to end elder abuse. Every year, June 15 is observed as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an opportunity to ensure justice for all.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we have a fascinating story. We're going to be talking about Tabitha's Meals on Wheels, and it goes back a long, long time. And today with us we have a very special person. She is Michaela Young. She's the Director of Program Development at Tabitha, and we're going to hear and listen to that story, and I think you're really going to enjoy this. Now tell us a little bit about the history of this great institution.
Absolutely. So Tabitha is a nonprofit that was founded in 1886 by Reverend Henry Heiner, and it was actually named for his daughter, Tabitha, who succumbed to scarlet fever.
I always wondered where the name Tabitha came from.
Yes.
Fascinating story. Now, tell us a little bit more about Henry Heiser and his family. Here's a picture, and of course this would date way back. Take a guess as to what that year might have been. Well, in the 1800s, certainly, I would think. And we're not sure if the little girl in the front is Tabitha. Is that a boy behind the little girl?
You know, it's hard to tell back then, and he actually started Tabitha as an orphanage, And it's still where our main campus is located at 48th and Randolph is actually where the orphanage was founded by Reverend Heiner.
Yeah, he must have been really amazing. And the little girl who died, Tabitha, died of scarlet fever.
She did.
And scarlet fever in the 1820s to about 1880s decimated the world. I mean, it was all over the world, and people got it. And then thanks now to our new technology with penicillin.
Yes.
I had scarlet fever.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, and I was in and out of the hospital in short time.
Wow.
I was a young girl, and I came down with scarlet fever, and you got all those bumps all over you, and so that's not a fun thing to get.
No, you were lucky.
Yeah, well, thank goodness to penicillin, all the new things that are happening. It's really wonderful. Well, when did Tabitha start the senior services?
Well, in true Tabitha mission-based form, we recognized there was a need in our community, and so we transitioned to providing senior care services in 1960.
It's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago.
But the most amazing thing for me is that Tabitha is still in the same original place that it was back in the 18...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's still there and still functioning and growing and changing all the time.
Yes.
When did the Meals on Wheels begin?
Meals on Wheels actually began over 50 years ago in 1967. A group of home health care nurses actually saw that there was a need to people they were serving throughout the Lincoln community, to those who were homebound and really needed help getting a meal provided to them.
So that was over 50 years ago.
It was.
Oh my goodness. Well, now, who qualifies to receive the Meals on Wheels?
Anyone in our Lincoln community qualifies who is in need of a meal being provided to them.
And what's the price?
It's $6.25, and the cost
$6.25. $6.25. What a deal!
It is. It's cheaper than a fast food meal. So, and it delivers so much more than just a meal. We provide a safety check to people who are often living on their own, and a smile, and it really gives peace of mind and comfort to family members. Because often, for 85% of our Meals on Wheels recipients, they say the volunteer is the only person they're going to see that day.
That makes me feel good that that somebody's there that cares enough, and I can imagine people who live alone to have a person come to their door and give them food.
Yes.
And good nutritious food is a pretty special thing. Now, I'm making an assumption that it's older people that are the most recipients. Is that true?
It is a lot of our recipients, but we serve young people too. We have people who have developmental disabilities that we're also serving.
Mm-hmm. Is there any age limit?
There is no age limit. We provide meals to anyone who is in need.
Well, but children?
We have some young adults who actually do receive the meals.
They cover the waterfront, that's for certain. All right. Well, then, how many people do you serve per day?
Every day we're serving over 500 meals, and those meals are actually prepared at Tabitha. We have a dedicated culinary team who works all day to get those meals prepared, and they do an excellent job.
Well, obviously it's working, and this is 7 days a week?
7 days a week.
And what time approximately would people be receiving their food? Because you can't get to everybody at noon.
Sure. Generally, so they receive a hot, nutritious meal, and usually they're receiving them as early as 11 a.m. and then sometimes as late as noon. So we try to get to everyone before noon because we know people are depending on that lunch to be delivered.
What would happen if a person had to go someplace? They wouldn't be there during the time that the volunteer would be there. Do they call you?
Yes. Yeah, that does happen. So people are not always at home to receive their meal, and they'll call us, and we can still deliver it. So oftentimes they'll just leave a cooler on their front porch, and we'll just put the meal in there so it stays nice and hot for them.
Well, now, do you still need volunteers?
We do. Yes.
Listen up.
We are always in need of volunteers. We currently have about 1,000 volunteers to provide this service, but we're in need of more every single day.
Now there's the information on the screen, and we'll give you a moment or few to write down the telephone number if you're interested. It's Tabitha Meals on Wheels. Now this is the volunteer hotline, 402-486 8513, and you can call between 8 and 5, Monday through Sunday.
Yes.
So I hope you've got that written down. Now, do you need some more volunteers?
We do, and this is a great way of giving back. So you can do it as little or as much as you want. We have some volunteers who deliver just one time a month, and others who deliver once a week. It's a great way for families to give back as an activity to do together. We have businesses that do it together, church groups, and even just individuals as well.
Now, do volunteers provide their own transportation?
They do. They graciously drive their own vehicles to deliver the meals.
What about the gas?
They provide that themselves. We are very, very grateful for their generosity.
Their contribution to the community. I think that's marvelous for all of you people out there who are delivering Meals on Wheels.
It is.
You know, to give your time and your car and your gas expense. That's very, very special. Okay. Now, do you have just one person in the car, or do you have more?
You can do either. Some people deliver on their own, and that's just great. We also have people who deliver in pairs. That way, while one person is driving, the other person can be navigating on where they're headed to next and delivering that hot meal.
I would think that a lot of elderly people who may live alone, really appreciate the person coming and delivering. Are there more men or women who do it, who deliver?
It's pretty split down the middle. We have volunteers of all ages, all genders, so it's definitely split.
Well, I can imagine an older person who is so receptive to getting the food to want to talk.
Yes, yes.
Stay there for a while. Come on in and have a Diet Coke.
Yep, it's awesome. It's a great experience.
Okay. So how many routes across, now this is just in Lincoln, right?
Yes, it is just in
How
Lincoln.
many routes do you cover during this period of time?
We cover about 46 routes during the
goodness.
weekdays, and then on the weekends we have about 39 routes.
Oh, now if somebody wanted to volunteer, and I think it would be a very generous thing to do, we'll put the information on and get your pencil or your ink pen out. And there's the information. Will you give it to us, my dear?
Yes, just go to www.tabitha.org/volunteer. There's a Meals on Wheels application there that we can help you fill out. And then you can also just call our volunteer hotline at 402-486-8513.
Michaela, we have a couple of more minutes to talk about this, so let's talk about you. When did you start there and why?
I've worked at Tabitha for a couple years, and
what did you do there?
I work in the foundation, so I do a lot of the events, I do a lot of grant writing, and a lot of the operations of the foundation. So I get to see firsthand the impact that we're providing to this community, and it's just an incredible mission-based place to work. Everything we do is to better the seniors that we're serving and to really fill the gaps in our community that are needed.
Well, we thank you very much, Michaela Young. I know you're doing a terrific job, and the people out there are really appreciating this. So I hope you took down some of those numbers just in case you need that. My pleasure to meet you and your services. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn a lot more about Tabitha.